So
What's
did you
up,
just get out
Joe?
of prison? Did you just
I'm
get
at
out of
a
prison?
I'm at a remote location. I'm reporting on the massive influx of illegal immigrants into the United States.
Really?
Yeah, it's a big concern. All of them that
Yeah.
were stopped at the border. That they're stopped. 2.4 million of them detained at the border. I'm just kidding. No, I can't get back to the house in time. I'm waiting on some work on my car, so I'm going to go cameraless, and everybody will just have to look at you instead of me, and that'll just be the way it is. And I'm going to let you drive, and I'll just talk, which is kind of fun.
Really? Oh, the pressure's on.
You got all those links in the Telegram channel ready?
I think so, but nobody's really watching, right? Everybody's listening. Okay. So what was the first one? Yuga Labs,
Yeah,
right?
let's talk about that.
Okay, hold on. Let me see if I figure how to do this again real quick. All right, here we go. That should be sharing.
So, what's the guy's name? Can you read that headline? I can't see
Daniel
that.
Allegre. Yuga Labs names Activision Blizzard exec Daniel Allegre as new CEO.
Yeah, now on its surface, that sounds fantastic. Like, wow, holy shit, what a score. But this is the guy that's on the fucking way out at Activision. And the reason he's on the way out is he created a culture of abuse and sexual harassment, which has put them into a lot of trouble and a lot of pain and a lot of lawsuits. So I find it interesting that, look, I'm sure a skill set for strategically making a gaming component for this company, for Yuga, is good. But, supposedly the interviews I've heard with the founders of Yuga, they were very much driven to create something beautiful and fantastic in a community. And, they're all very la, la, la. This guy does not match with the culture they supposedly were creating. And, who knows if he can even adapt to this world, So anyway, I saw a tweet. One of the tweets I put in our group is somebody said, "Oh, that's great. Is he bringing the sexual harassment and abuse with him as well?" So, it's just not a good look, and it's like there are a lot of gaming executives out there that would love to take over a company like this. Why do you have to pick the guy that's got this horrible reputation right now and that they're trying to push out of his own company? So I don't quite
The
get
other
it.
thing go ahead, sorry.
No, that's it.
Yeah, the other thing I would say is that, that whole Microsoft Activision deal is on the ropes now for antitrust, I think, issues.
Yep.
And that obviously shows that Allegre and senior manager at Activision did not manage that process very well.
No.
So that's another kind of negative indicator to me. Obviously, sexual harassment and abuse in the workforce is the top line bad thing here. But, I think the trend is people, maybe Yuga Labs is thinking that, this goes into, maybe because he's a gaming guy, it goes into like GameFi, gaming, and then eventually leads to, big content deals with, Microsoft, Azure, things like that in some, unforeseen way by me. Plus bringing in real world management guy, and he'd be perceived as that. But, like you said, you got to always dig through all the baggage. And you just don't want to bring people in that have been, prolific, younger people that have been prolific in that type of abuse. You don't want them in your workforce.
Absolutely. And look, it's not like this wasn't known. Like they didn't even have to dig deep. It's been in the news quite a bit, right? So, and has caused quite a stir in the gaming world. Now, maybe they got him cheap because he's damaged goods, but I don't know. It just it's kind of crazy to me. So anyway.
Yeah.
Another one I loaded up in there was a tweet about Brian Armstrong from Coinbase saying that all financial regulations should be limited to centralized actors. And I have to say, as much as I'm not a fan of him and Coinbase in general, their government relations team has been fully oriented to to looking out for the entire ecosystem. Their proposed legislation on how to handle Howie in the crypto world is fantastic. Their, the things that Brian Armstrong says are fantastic. Now, behind the scenes, they could be doing the same shit that SBF was, but I don't get that impression. I get that impression that they're looking at the long game, and that while they could orient everything to being a centralized player and regulations in favor of them, they've already gone through all the regulatory steps. They've already spent all the money. They're completely, compliant. I really must say that I appreciate how hard the Coinbase government relations and team and Brian are working to be fair about how they pitch legislation and to see that DeFi should be left alone. So I'm really impressed with that. I got to say that as much as I'm not a big fan, I have to give kudos for that.
Yeah, I mean, between the Voyager, Binance US story, and Coinbase, those are the only ones really left standing for normie types. So, he has to lead at this point. And plus, I think the board's sitting there going, what smoking guns are around here? Everybody else is getting taken out. We have to make sure this is squeaky clean. So I think that they've got like you said, the legislative affairs team in there. They're doing things to sort of shape it, to their vision of what it should be in the future. But you're right. Anything is good. Did I lose you? Oh, you must be getting on a REPA or something like that. You getting on a REPA?
Just muted. So this is going to be a short show today because we're going to run through these fast. The next thing
we haven't started bullshitting yet, so
the third one down. The third link down in our group that was posted in today's group is about Solana. Can you click that one up on screen?
You always pick the ones I didn't load. Solana, and what was it again on Twitter?
Yeah, on Twitter. It was a tweet.
Okay. Start talking. I'll get it up in a second.
All right. So, look, it's a developer, a white hat dev, KKLAS.
K-Class, yeah. Got it. I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Said, I recently discovered a critical loss of funds vulnerability on a Solana SC that would have affected multiple apps with approximately 30 million at risk. If it was exploited, it would have been the third largest SC exploit on Solana, yet none of the affected apps want to give me a bounty. And then he goes on to say, this is a crazy, stupid thing to do. The message you're basically sending is that you'd rather get hacked than have critical bugs reported to you, because what incentive does anyone have for researching and reporting vulnerabilities? This is why you have situations like the Mango exploit happen, where the exploiter will first steal the funds and then start negotiating. There's no proper incentive to report. Next time I see a code smell on a Solana SC, I'm not even bothering looking into it. Good luck. And this is just stupid, short-sighted behavior by whoever the projects are. And this doesn't reflect on all of Solana, obviously, but it's still pretty stupid that they would do that. And it actually brings back to the episode I posted yesterday of Mission DeFi, which is Hats Finance. So Hats Finance and Immunify are both solutions to this problem. They are bug bounty programs. Hats is decentralized, Immunify is centralized, but both of them provide a method for protocols to actually report, weaknesses and problems, and get rewarded for it. And if you don't understand incentives well enough to know how important that is, you probably shouldn't be in crypto at all. Is all I would say about that.
I got a question. It leads to that thing where everybody just, when they find a vulnerability, they just hack it and then get the reward for, returning it, non-prosecutorial agreement and all of that. I didn't realize, I wasn't really thinking about, Hat and the other one, that how they actually facilitate this. I didn't connect the dots between the two stories, but it makes a lot of sense, because why would you, I get it, who wants to pay $3 million? And there was some commentary in the chats about, these a lot of DeFi protocols don't have $3 million to pay a bounty on at this point. But I think there has to be a solution, because you want community bug, right?
Here's the thing. Well, first of all, the Hats Finance system allows the community to contribute to the bug bounties, right? So if the protocol has 250 grand and they can raise another 50 grand from the community, and then they can push the auditors. Another part of their model is to push auditors to pony up and say, put their money where their mouth is, that their audits are good enough, right? And so, and there's an incentive for doing it, right? You earn tokens for putting money into the bug bounties, right? But put yourself in the shoes of the hacker, right? As a hacker, you don't want to risk prosecution. You don't want to have to be, on the run if you go ahead and hack a protocol. Even if you return some of the funds and negotiate it, you still have legal risk out there, right? Yeah, but when they don't have a bug bounty program and they refuse to pay you, then you're going to say, screw it, I'll be anonymous. I'll take the money. I'll give back all of it, but 25-30%, and I'll make a big buck. It's all about aligning incentives. I mean, that's, whenever you find a problem in life, you just have to follow the incentives back. And in this case, protocols are being too short-sighted to realize that if they just would provide the incentive up front, someone's probably more likely to take less money for less risk in their life than they are the other way around. But if you don't give them incentive to take less risk in their life, then they're going to take more. And guess what? You're going to be out more. So, if he steals the 30 million, he's going to want at least 5 million of that, right? Or 10% at 3 million. But if you had a bug bounty for 300,000, he probably would have taken that to avoid jail, right? Or to avoid being pursued. So and to do the right thing. So, I mean, that's just the stupidity of this kind of short-sighted behavior. So, anyway.
Yeah, well, because right now they got the free pass because they can go do everything they want, criminal-wise to steal the money. And if they get caught anywhere along the process, it's like, oh, dude, I was doing it as a bug bounty.
Right.
I was going to return it all.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I still want to return it, if they have it at that point. So they get that kind of like a put on, mal behavior. I'd rather have it be where the good white hat types have an incentive to collaborate with the protocols in a way that doesn't get them in that kind of legal jeopardy. Because once you intrude into the computer system, if you're an American, I think you're already fucked at that point.
Yeah, exactly. So, you've already broken a law that doesn't require the protocol to prosecute, right?
Right.
The Justice Department can come after you, not to mention whatever state laws you might have broken.
Yep, district attorneys, anybody. So you really do have yourself exposed. And then they're going to put the hammer down on somebody like that just to deter that behavior. So I think that these platforms or protocols you've identified, Brad, are in K-Class too, are in that situation in his chats are things that make sense moving forward. It's kind of a balance from the two ends. So good stuff.
Totally agree. Let's see. There's a piece here that I put up, Joe. Oh, clarifying the Binance US deal for buying out Voyager. So yesterday we talked about it from the perspective of the articles we were reading, but it looks like the articles weren't exactly reporting what the deal structure is. So rather than paying $1.02 billion to get the crypto, right? What Binance is basically doing, they're paying Voyager $20 million for Voyager to hand over customers and crypto assets that will then be accounts in Binance US. And then it's up to Binance US to retain them as customers. But those crypto assets will not be Binance US's crypto assets. They're not paying $1.02 billion. They're getting the ability to retain or attempt to retain Voyager's customers as Binance US customers, and they're paying $20 million to do that.
Which I believe was 3.6 million customers, right? Something like that.
3.5 million, it says. Yeah, 3.5 million customers.
Yeah, which, look, for buying leads, I mean, $20 million for that's a huge win.
Exactly. No, it's totally worth it. I mean, completely worth it. So, look, I think people are generally skeptical, especially people that have been screwed over in the Voyager or the FTX shit. So you'll probably lose a lot of those who will just go off wallet or cash out. But I mean, even if you retain 10, 20% of that, the future revenue against them could be significant, right? And you may have like 100 whales in there that trade like crazy that you're going to make a ton of money in fees from. So at the end of the day, it's probably well worth it to take the risk and pay $20 million for that many customers.
Yeah. And it strengthens up your Binance US position vis-a-vis US regulators.
Exactly.
Because now they're custodying more customers. So now it's like, oh shit, it's not 1 million anymore or whatever they have. Now it's, it's this new number. So it's just kind of like a manning up move in a way.
Absolutely.
You're bulking up is a better term.
Absolutely.
Another smart play, and I just tossed up the 3 huge opportunities for crypto from Buddha.
I like this outline. I really like he was in an interview on Bankless yesterday, and his 3 main points were we need a growing algorithmic stablecoin. I think everybody kind of knows that already, but he also says that we have a long way to go for creating a wallet that will include mass adoption, right? So the 3 things he talked about were mass wallet adoption, inflation-resistant stablecoins, and Ethereum-powered website logins. I think that of those, obviously, making wallets better, making them easier, making them easy to onboard customers, and they don't have to understand all the complexities of crypto is important. Change and Brew both do a really great job with this. Change, CHAINGE, they have 2 levels of wallet access in their mobile app. You can do advanced or you can do beginner. If you do advanced, then you hold your keys, it's all yours, etc. If you do beginner, then they have this encrypted mechanism with a password that stores your keys, but only you can get to it. So if you forget your password, you can't get your keys and they can't either. But it makes it easier for you to access, right? So it makes it easier than trying to store a private key somewhere safe, et cetera, et cetera. Brew DeFi is password based. It's a self-custody wallet, but it gives you easy access to protocols, but it doesn't give you free access to everything in the world with that wallet, right? It's only the things that they approve that are safer that come into the wallet. And so I think what Vitalik is saying is somewhere in between is easy to use, easy to onboard, but also gives you the freedom to do whatever you want in the crypto world. And I don't think we're all the way there yet, but there's some good potential. But the most important one to me out of these 3 is Ethereum-powered website logins. And that is the idea that instead of a username and password at Google or at Facebook or at Twitter, that you just connect your wallet and you approve it, right? It's like when I use the Lens protocol. I just connect my wallet and I approve it. I don't have to deal with the usernames and passwords. The only password I have to, it's like actually using 1Password, because the only password I have to remember or even think about is the one for my wallet, right? Once I'm in my wallet, I can choose to sign it and I can revoke access as well. So I totally agree with this one, because this is something I think could have widespread appeal. If you create an easy to use wallet and then you drive it into adoption by making it easy for people to log into Web 2 and Web 3 websites, then, 1-click access to all of your information, your social media, whatever, I think that has a huge potential to onboard new users for all of us. And then you can introduce tokens and NFTs and everything else to them, where you can provide incentives for them to use it. So I love this assessment by him. I think he's right. And I think it makes a ton of sense. So,
well, look, it has to go that way in some shape or form, because we're talking about self-custody of crypto, and we're talking about biological proof of identity and online identity, all of those things at once. So if you could just kind of on ramp into the system, signing in once, and then go everywhere else and manage all your exchanges. I mean, this could be healthcare data too, for that matter. Medical records, things like that. I mean, that's where it's all heading. And maybe, I don't know, the keys might be tied to something else, like, DNA profile or something, or what markers you have. It's got to get there. It's not going to stay individual logins on sites and individual things. It has to have gates. And, this could be one. And it's, in a way that's private when you want it to be and open when you don't. So that's the holy grail in a lot of ways to me. And I love the fact that, leaders or visionaries like this and others are talking about this, including yourself, Brad.
Yep. Look, Niblet says crypto needs the automatic transmission of wallets. And he says, then we can try for the continuously variable transmission of wallets. Niblets, I am not sure what you mean by that, buddy. I may need you to kind of re-explain that, your point, if you don't mind, in another comment, please. While we're waiting for that, Joe, there's an article in there. What you got?
Let me just get it up real quick. Oh, damn it, it's going to make me subscribe. Well, anyhow, no, I'm already subscribed. Can you see this yet? Is it up?
Not yet. Nope.
I was just trying to make sure it was going to. There we go. It's say goodbye to the bear from Jarvis Labs. I recommend everybody go read this one too, because it does an indicator, which is that MVRV indicator, I believe, which measures kind of the delta between the buy cost and the sell cost of BTC. And, you know, obviously when that's negative, it's still going down. Well, they're saying it just crossed the 200-day moving average. So, again, the article is Say Goodbye to the Bear. It just came out 8 hours ago or so. But it all talks about this, you know, it's a good description on, you know, the emotional stuff of trading and things like that. But the interesting thing is that one big indicator, and I'm just talking about MVRV. You know, it's the ratio of Bitcoin's market value versus its realized value.
That's interesting.
It tells us, MV tells us what the entire market's average cost basis is. RV tells us how much those coins were worth when last transacted. So it's capturing delta between buying and, you know, when you bought it and today. So the difference in those two prices tells us what percentage profit or loss the average Bitcoin transaction is currently realizing. For example, let's say somebody purchased at 69. They didn't move the coins till today when they sold them. You know, that RV or cost basis is $69,000. If the MV of the price of BTC at the time of the transaction in which they sold it today, that's 16.5. So the difference between those two is, you know, roughly minus 77%. So it gives it a difference score of minus 0.77. So then they kind of do that against I think it's a 200-day moving average, but they basically run that until it shows positive. And what they've shown is, I think this is going to say that anybody that bought above 220,000 at this point has pretty much already capitulated. So, I mean, there's a lot of data here, so I can't share it all, but it basically is saying that I think it's saying everybody who's sold, who wants to sell, has sold. So to me, that means it's cleaned out all of the dead weight in there. So it means that you're really getting closer to that, you know, bottom of the bear, whenever that is. So read the article, Jarvis Labs, Say Goodbye to the Bear.
Is that paywalled?
No, it's not. I mean, you might have to subscribe, but it's free. Okay, no, it's cool. all over Google search. Yeah, you could put
that link in our group so I can put it in the show notes this afternoon.
Okay, will do, buddy.
All right, cool. Joe, there's another. I love seeing that. I got to look at it and understand it, but it sounds awesome. I hope it's true.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. You want the House Crypto Committee bill?
Yeah, please, please.
Coming up. All right. So what were you thinking when you pulled this one?
Well, I'm thinking that somebody's listening to you and me.
There you go. There you go.
Congress is listening to us. What's the committee? Let me look at it.
Wasn't it the Finance
House
Financial Services?
So when the House turns back over, when Republicans take control of the House in January, December, I don't know when they get sworn in, but anyway, January. Yeah, when they take over, the new chairman of the Finance Committee is going to reintroduce a bill for the third time that he's introduced twice, which will allow for innovation in financial applications, including crypto, to be sandboxed, which you and I have been ranting about for 2+ years at this point. And he's been trying to get that in. It'll give them regulatory capabilities to get escape from kind of the standard stuff that SEC and CFTC enforce. The article does point out that they already have kind of innovation groups at both of those organizations, but of course they're not giving any leeway for crypto projects whatsoever into that. And there is no sandbox away from regulation for the most part currently. So I was excited to see that. I have a feeling it'll get killed anyway and they'll never make it to Biden's desk. But I'm hopeful, going to be hopeful.
You never know, man. You never know, buddy. You never know.
It makes, look, I mean, from a logic perspective, it makes a lot of sense, right? Here's the way that he needs to be pitching this. It's like, look, everyone says lip service about, we don't want the innovation to leave this country. But at the same time, then they talk about locking it down, banning it and everything else. Well, let's find some middle ground here. Let's let this thing grow. Let's let it succeed. Let's let companies build and projects build and not have to worry about going to jail. and then let's see where it comes out, right? Let's see if
Yeah.
they're a better for society than a negative. So
Well,
just glad to see this.
yeah. Look, I mean, I'm looking at the article. I know you can't see it, but what's interesting is that just the process would be. This is Congressman McHenry from North Carolina, if anybody's interested. That companies, according to him, companies could apply for and quote enforceable compliance agreement, end quote, with the offices at agencies like SEC, CFTC that would allow for a legal path forward without quote out of date or unduly burdensome, end quote, regulations. He suggested the legislation has been modeled on North Carolina's regulatory sandbox program. So we might want to start everyone researching that program in North Carolina, because I didn't even know it existed.
Me neither.
But if there is,
I did not either.
Yeah. So let's all remember that and see what we can dig up, because that, because if there's a problem in that, we should identify it early to him, so that we can, lobby him or, communicate with him, not lobby, of course, but communicate in a way that influences it as a group.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
but yeah, this kind of thing, I'm going through it right now. It could work. I mean, he's talking about other federal agencies, including the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, have already announced they plan to establish innovation offices that focus on fintech. I guess you said there's a strategic hub of innovation and finance, or FinHub, in the SEC. CFTC has a lab CFTC that they started in 2019. I haven't paid attention to any of those. And it says, Waters is the current chair of that committee. McHenry takes over in January following blah, blah, blah. Under Waters and McHenry, the House committee has made many bipartisan efforts to address the collapse of FTX, of course. But what's interesting here is it shows me that Waters and McHenry have a good working relationship already. So when McHenry reintroduces it, she's not going to be going against it automatically. I mean, she'll go for whatever she thought was not there. Waters won't. So it'll get out of committee. So to me, or it'll be responsibly discussed. So to me, if he's bringing it out versus Waters, that's pretty interesting, because that could be something that you could get a bipartisan compromise going in on, in the next year. So super positive.
Yeah. Well, let's go back real quick. Eamon says, gotta be able. It's hard for me to read on my phone. Got to be able to log into every site using my Ledger. You can currently set that up, but it is a pain and not always effective. I think Ledger has an app that works like a password manager. Oh, that'd be cool. I didn't even know they had that. I'll check it out. So the idea would be is you could basically store your passwords in the Ledger, and then it'll function like 1Password does now. So that's interesting, really interesting. Niblets, explaining his transmissions, says, manual transmission is fun for car geeks, but the market clearly prefers automatic. Now I get the analogy. He's saying make it automatic. Right now we're all using manual transmission, and we need to make it like an automatic transmission. Aha.
Yeah.
All right.
It's a manual transmission, though, with a crank starter on the front of the engine.
Yeah. He says variable transmission just gives you the bennies of manual and automatic. So yeah, that's the in between. Mainstream markets hate worrying about the mechanics. Geeks love the mechanics. Textbook Everett Tech diffusion model. This guy's so fucking smart, it's scary. Yeah, awesome. So that's fantastic. Joe, the last thing I had in there, load up that Arweave link. It'll be the smaller box.
Oh, it comes. Hold on one second. Arweave. I'm getting a little training session in this.
So I've always known Arweave is just like a competitor to Filecoin, not really a blockchain, just a way to store files, or IPFS, similar to IPFS, and that it, stores your coins and stores files and lets you put files out there so they are always accessible, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of people in NFT use IPFS, but for some reason I stumbled back on it yesterday and went down the rabbit hole a bit more, and it's a fuck of a lot more than that. And so what I want to do first is I want to make a call out to anybody that's listening or watching. I've done an outreach to Sam, I believe his name is, the founder of Arweave. But if you know anybody that has expertise in or is developing on Arweave, I would love to talk to them because I want to learn a lot more about this and understand what's possible. But yesterday I started to run through their yellow paper, went through a bunch of the information on their website, looked at a bunch of news sites and projects around it. They have a replacement for blockchain called Blockweave. High performance, still claims to be, as secure and capable as blockchain. It has its own smart contracts capability. It has JavaScript for writing smart contracts capabilities. The smart contracts, rather than executing and being the performance bottleneck that we have with the Ethereum virtual machine having to execute on chain, they actually execute locally on each user's machine so that you get higher performance. You don't have to worry about the integrity of the entire blockchain being compromised because of some rogue smart contract, because it executes locally. So it becomes an issue of trusting the developer. They have a system called PermaWeb, which basically allows you to create web pages that can never be lost or removed. But I'm actually really excited about what is there. And I think people just kind of see it as a storage mechanism. Solana uses Arweave, and a few other blockchains use Arweave for file storage, primarily for NFTs. But there is a shit ton more than that. They have a DEX that's about to launch, a cross-chain DEX. They have some level of integration with Evmos for cross-chain capabilities. I haven't had time to go into it completely because I just was browsing through it last night. But I'm really, really fucking impressed with Arweave and what's there and what's possible. I think there's a lot more to leverage than the market understands. And I think that part of their model, and I'm just supposing this, I have no idea, but I think part of their model was to seed themselves as the file storage mechanism for all these chains, and then really push hard on the smart contract side to potentially, kind of like a Trojan horse attack where they're all over the place because they're storing files for everybody. And then, you start exposing and allowing developers to realize what's possible with this network. And, if you have cross-chain, you have safety, you have security, you have performance, you have a form of a ledger, and you have permanent storage of files, you're kind of solving a lot of problems. I did see some development on social network capabilities there, all kinds of really cool shit. So anyway, if anybody has expertise, anybody wants to come chat about it, please ping me, DM me on Telegram, DM me on Twitter, B05Crypto. I would love to chat further about this because I think this thing I think Arweave has a ton of potential I'd never really realized because I hadn't looked at it.
This is pretty crazy, dude. I've been going through the PermaWeb stuff. I mean, this is interesting.
Yeah, it's much more power than I ever imagined. I thought it was just another storage mechanism.
No, it looks to me like they're storing the entire web.
Well, they can store everything that gets, they talk about the fact that, on the web, if somebody deletes a server or a web page, then that's lost except for the archives that get done sometimes. Whereas this, with the PermaWeb, everything gets stored forever. And the cool thing is their token, AR, is the mining mechanism is all aligned. So there's massive utility in the AR token because in order to use this network, in order to store files, in order to store web pages, in order to do anything, you pay with AR, right? And that assures that your content will always be available. But the incentive mechanisms for people who provide the storage are really cool. And they dynamically adjust on a regular basis. So as a storage provider or a miner, they call them, you're making tokens for providing the storage, but at the same time, the system automatically adjusts if, say, the cost of hard drives goes too high, or the mechanism needed to incentivize miners needs to go up. So it's dynamic, it's algorithmic. So far, again, just scratching the surface, but so far I'm really impressed with Arweave. I had no idea.
So, like, I'm looking at, I guess, these are like dApps or something like that. Utilization on the network, R drive. Pay once to securely store your files on the PermaWeb forever.
Yeah.
I guess you'd put birth certificates. Is this public or encrypted? That's the other thing.
I think they have mechanisms for encryption of your files, and they have mechanisms for making it be a public web page if you want to, right? So you can do photo albums. There's all kinds of apps. I started going through some of the apps last night. There's all kinds of apps, social media, web, photo gallery, file sharing, etc. It was I'm just
Well, think about it.
really
Yeah.
impressed.
Think about if you could take like, you know, I don't know, offering documents for a raise, and you could memorialize them permanently, so
Yep.
no one could ever alter or say that, or you could coordinate, like, you know, you could permanently, like the issue with, say, influencers and, you know, touting things, and then people going back to look, timing up statements with wallet transactions. You know, you could basically set it up in ways where you could prove you weren't doing that, you know, and
Right.
leave it out there as a permanent record.
Well, yeah,
There's all
and this
kinds of things. Go
yeah,
ahead.
this makes it a lot easier to instigate smart contracts for titles and housing and real estate sales, etc., and then store the docs. Joe, I have to drop right now. I apologize. You're going to have to take it from here and tell everybody we love them and thank them and appreciate them and
Sure.
wrap it up.
Yeah, you know me. I'm a real touchy-feely guy.
You are. I know how much you love to hug. All right, guys. Thank you, everybody.
All right,
Love and
dude.
appreciate you. I'll catch you later.
All right, catch you later, man. I'll keep
Bye-bye.
this one. See you later, Brad. Talk to you later.